Hello, Darklings! So I have spent many a video talking about all of my favorite horror movies, of which there are many, and I still have not gone anywhere near through the full list of movies I've seen and enjoy, but I've only shared a handful. But one of the things that I love so much about horror films, especially horror films that are older than 10 years, are special effects makeup artists and the work that they do, because if there's one thing that I am super passionate about, is art. I became an artist for a reason. And I super respect sculptors and puppet makers and special effects artists like crazy. And here is a list of some of my favorite puppet makers and special effects makeup artists. So the first one on this list is, long since deceased, is Jack Pierce. So I love Lon Chaney Sr. I have his face tattooed on my leg. I have a Fan of the Opera poster in the background. And he devised a lot of his own special effects makeup things in the 1920s, using things like nose putty and fish skin and wire and grease paint in order to create these famous monsters in movies like Fan of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Laugh Clown Laugh, and Fan of the Opera. He helped assist Jack Pierce in his early training, and Jack Pierce later went on to create the makeup for Frankenstein's monster in Frankenstein in 1931. He also did the makeup for The Bride in 1935, and he also did the makeup for the Wolfman in 1941. So he did a lot of these old school Universal monsters, and I can't find out a ton of information on him. I could probably learn more and debrief more, but I really do love the monsters that he has created. And he did an amazing job with using cotton stuffing in Boris Karloff's cheeks, and then he also did the makeup in The Mummy and wrapping him in lots of layers of linen bandages. And so he did some amazing old school monsters. A little bit older, but died only recently, is Dick Smith. So Dick Smith was not so much into creating monsters, but did absolutely amazing old age makeup. So he was a makeup artist on TV shows in the 50s and 60s. He did the makeup in The Exorcist and did an amazing job both on the age makeup and on Regan's creature makeup. And then he went on and did David Bowie's makeup in The Hunger. And he just does really amazing things. And I think he got at least one Academy Award. And his protege was Rick Baker. So Rick Baker helped assist in these extensive, crazy cast pieces that he was doing for The Exorcist when Rick was only 18 or 19 years old up in New York. And then Rick went on to be the first person to ever receive an Academy Award for Best Special Effects Makeup Design for American Werewolf in London. And I love that movie, and he totally deserved that award. He has won that award more times than any other makeup artists. And he's done some absolutely brilliant work, and I think the most recent thing he's done is he did Angelina Jolie's makeup in Maleficent, which was really cool, and I was so pleased that that was not digitally made, and he did those amazing cheekbones and horns of hers. Rick Baker's protege was Rob Bottin, who I was incorrectly pronouncing as Bottin for a long time, quite embarrassed. But he was working on a werewolf movie at the same time that Rick was, which was The Howling. And his werewolves are intense as well. And they came out in the same time, and they kind of had a bidding war between those two. But Rob's work is also really well known in The Thing, where he did an outstanding job and was constantly calling up Rick Baker for help and be like, hey, do you think it's possible to get this guy's head to detach and crawl away on spider legs? He's like, sure, anything's possible. I appreciate his spontaneity and his ability to improvise when he was working on The Thing, even with a team of only about 5 people, and he probably got all of 6 hours of sleep over the course of 4 months, which is very upsetting, and he ended up collapsing of nervous exhaustion by the end. Poor dear. I also really greatly appreciate Tom Savini's work. So some of his best work is in the first Friday the 13th movie and The Prowler, and he was good friends with John Landis and Sean Cunningham, and he is really good at gore effects, and he's done some crazy things. He's also had some amusing bit parts in acting, but he went to Vietnam, which is why he didn't do Romero's Night of the Living Dead, but ended up doing Dawn and Day of the Dead. And in Vietnam, he was a war photographer, and so he saw so much travesty and violence and gore that it gave him inspiration for future projects, which I think is the main thing that was helping him kind of mentally block all the horrors he saw in real life, was to sort of have a filter and make them fake. And he did a brilliant job with that, and he still does. And then another really fantastic one, and probably the best known of all these, is Stan Winston. So Stan Winston, who just died about 4.5 years ago, has done some really amazing stuff. He designed the creature in Predator. Apparently on an airplane napkin, he drew that design. He was a brilliant sculptor. He also helped with the animatronics in Jurassic Park. He created the special effects hands in Edward Scissorhands. And he directed his own movie, Pumpkinhead, and that creature was really creepy, and he did an amazing job. So Stan Winston was also a really amazing thing. He helped direct and write a Michael Jackson's short film called Ghosts, which I saw recently. I don't really care about Michael Jackson over much, but he's done some very interesting short films. But Stan Winston was also quite inspirational. There are also whole special effects teams. If you've ever seen the documentary Nightmare Factory, which is on Netflix, and it's great. It's talking about this team of guys that worked on special effects, and they still do, and they have a shop for it. And all of these special effects makeup artists, I really appreciate. I love practical effects in film. I'm so bored of digital effects. I find them really dull and lifeless. I appreciate that people put tons of work into them, but I also don't want to watch them. I want to watch puppets. I want to see people fuck up, really. I don't mind seeing the stitches in the costume. I don't really mind seeing it because it makes it feel like someone made it with love. Or with tears of frustration, either or. That being said, I also really love puppets. I have a weakness for puppets because I'm a crazy person. And I really, really do love the Jim Henson Company, hence all the obsession with Labyrinth and Dark Crystal. And why I should probably rewatch the Star Wars films. But I appreciate that these people make these things and make them work in the most insane ways possible. And I love practical effects so much. And whenever I see practical effects happen, even if it's just gore, I just get excited about it because I think it's great. It's one of the reasons I appreciated the new Evil Dead movie so much. There are almost no digital effects used, which is amazing, and it was really violent. Despite my general disinterest in torture porn films, I thought that one was brilliant. Anyway, this all sums up to, I like artists. I like artists that work with their hands. That being said, it's not that I don't dislike animated films. It's not that I hate visual effects that are done on the computer. Computers may hate me, but that doesn't mean they're not important. And I just love seeing people that create things. And I love seeing people build things. It's why I love TV shows like Face Off and Jim Henson's Creature Shop. I love these things where people make shit because I love art. And I think people should support it. But I know in recent years it has been somewhat of an issue, especially with the way the digital effects have been going and the rate at which they've been getting better. A lot of companies, a lot of films don't want to spend as much money to do practical effects when they could spend just as much to go a little bit farther with digital. And that kind of crushes my soul because good portions of budgets in the past have been solely for special effects. And still, nowadays, a good portion of it is special effects. And I want to see the puppets come back. I want to see these elaborate setups. Like in Friday the 13th, when Kevin Bacon dies, they did this elaborate thing where he had to kneel with his head and his neck like this, and then put a fake chest and shove an arrow through it and have blood spurt everywhere. I appreciate the ingenuity that people had to go through in order to make this crazy, surreal, whatever, look real and fun. And then you get old school horror movies just are so much more fun to me. And the way that people improvise is funny, and I just like to see that so much more than carefully planned and manipulated digital effects. I want to see improvisation. So this overall rambliness is just, I really love practical effects, special effects makeup. I want all of these special effects guys to be my friends. Based off of interviews I've seen with them, I'm like, I want you to be my friend, good sir, because you seem like an awesome guy. And I'm friends with people that do special effects makeup, and it's just super cool. So I suggest supporting it, if you can. And if you can do it, that's even better, because I can't. I can just make it look like I've been in a car crash, but I don't usually. Anyway, till next time, Darklings.